I 100% laughed out loud at the end of this confession. It's just so relatable. I'm Laurie March, project manager and problem solver, and this is True Home Confessions, brought to you by Renewal by Andersen. Let's listen.
Hi, this is my confession. So I've lived in Los Angeles for a few years, and we sometimes get earthquakes. They haven't been too crazy, but my friend says we're overdue for a really big one, and I should have a kit ready. I've watched some of those doomsday prepper shows, and I know I should have a bunch of food and water prepped at least, but I just don't. I have literally nothing. Like, I'm doing okay financially, but I don't have a bunch of disposable income to just buy some huge kit. I feel like if the apocalypse hits, I'm just gonna lay down and die. Unless you have some suggestions. Thanks.
As you just heard, every episode we field an anonymous confession about the crazy things going on in your homes. From real estate regrets to neighbor drama and fights with your spouse. Next up, I bring on a guest, a friend of the show, so we can test out the value of friendly advice. Afterward, I'm bringing you an expert who's going to solve our caller's sticky situation. And then they'll let us know if our friends are really qualified to solve our toughest problems at home. Today's friend of the show is comedy writer, creator of the Selling Fountain Avenue web series, and UCB main stage provocateur and performer, Ryan Barton.
Yay! Hello.
What do you even think?
Oh my gosh. Well, this is so funny. I feel like I half wrote this. I'm like, did I submit this? Okay, I guess I have like a couple questions for you, Laurie.
Yeah.
Just like, my thought is like, what do we feel about doomsday preparation, just being prepared for, like, obviously an event, a catastrophic event like this? Like, what are your hot thoughts?
Well, I'll be honest and tell you that I'm a little bit of a preparedness nerd.
Okay.
I like being prepared for things. I'm a little bit risk averse generally. I don't know if you know this about me. I like imagine the worst thing that could happen a lot. And I'm just like, okay, if that was really terrible, what would one little thing that would make that better be? And then I go find that one thing and I'm like, okay, I'm going to put it in my car, or I'm going to so I try to sort of mitigate risk where I can. So I like preparedness.
Okay. So I feel like when you're like, oh, I don't know if you know this about me. I assumed, Laurie. I've known you for a hot second. I feel like if there's a spectrum of like Laurie to Ryan, we are complete opposites on that spectrum. Because when I think about something, you know, they mentioned, the person writing in mentioned like how much a kit would cost. I honestly think you could get like a pretty decent like kit for like not too much. So like monetarily, I get the annoying part of it. But I'm like, that's not the part I'm rubbing on. The part I'm rubbing on is like the actual having to go out and get it and like use my brain space to like think about it and like move storage in my apartment so I can find someplace. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So
although I guess if I had a home, I would have definitely a place to put it. But like, how big is an earthquake kit?
Right.
Aren't they just like, I mean, like obviously, like a jug of water.
Can you hold that up so we can see? That's how big you think an earthquake kit is?
Well, it's like a yellow box, right? It's like a little yellow box, and then because it's not like you're fitting jugs of water, like you will buy that separately. Okay, so I think I'm lazy, is what I'm really discovering.
By the way, if you're listening and you're not watching this, the amount of space that Ryan just held up with his fingers was maybe like 8 by 12.
Yeah, let's say 8 by 11, like a piece of paper. How big is a kit?
Yeah, so earthquake kit size just depends on what you're running away from. Earthquake, you have to kind of like, are you staying at home and being prepared? Or are you going to try to walk out of your neighborhood or get in a car and be prepared? If you live in an apartment, we don't really have a ton of space in Los Angeles where we live.
Right.
So your kit itself has to fit somewhere, right?
So my next question I need is like, what is in a kit? What are the varying kits? Like, am I
what
off?
You think is in an
Okay,
earthquake kit.
I'll tell you what's in a kit.
Let's hear it.
Band-Aids.
Okay.
antibiotic or like not antibiotic, but like, you know, a spray or like the wipes.
Sure.
Neosporin. Like, I don't think it comes with like a can of food. You know what I mean? Like that's the stuff I would think about. Like, you need to have a bottle. Like, to me, my kit is a bottle, a big jug of water, and like a can of beans. Or like a couple. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess like it's like antiseptic first aid stuff. And then I don't know, does it come with like a walkie-talkie, like a radio? Like what is in a kit? And you were telling me like there's different kits? I don't know.
Sure.
So am I screwed because my storage doesn't allow me to get the big boy, you know?
Yes and no. I mean, I think any little thing you do to prepare is more than somebody else, right? So just having water and food. So I took CERT training, which is community emergency response. I told you I'm a nerd, but I had several wonderful instructors. One of them actually two of them were firemen. They're amazing.
I feel like if the big one happens, we're all toast. Like they're like, we're not getting out of LA for quite some time.
Yeah.
No one's coming into LA. We're not gonna be able to drive anywhere. Like, I know, like if the big one...
What's going to happen to you in that moment, Ryan?
So if what you're referencing is like my diabolical mindset,
yes.
I don't know how much that's going to carry me in like I'm scrappy. If I survive, like if, you know, I'm not like...
Something didn't fall on you.
Right, which I assume would happen
Sure.
because I spend a lot of time working from my bed, writing from my bed. My bed is my sanctuary, you know? Like I just assumed I would get squished.
Yeah.
I also tested it the other night to see if I could crawl underneath my bed to protect myself.
Did you make it?
I can't, no, because it's too thin. It's like too small. So devastating because that was my one preparation and planning. Yeah, what would I do? Honestly, Lori, I would like crawl to a neighbor's like yourself and be like, hey, I'm good vibes. I'm not I'm not a awful person. I'm not a butthole. But like I would want to hang out and use some of your resources. And if you eventually have to kick me out, totally get it.
Right.
But like,
I do feel like water is our biggest problem because LA is built with clay pipes. And so a major earthquake is actually what I think will mess up Los Angeles. So having a water supply that could get you through, you know, originally they say like 3 days, 72 hours. But if we have a big problem, I think it's more like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like get through, you know, I don't know. I feel like in LA, we get a little bit of unrest thrown in there. Somebody's coming to knock on your door and find out what kind of like peanut butter and crackers you put aside.
And I keep thinking of the person who wrote this question, and I'm like, what? To me, it's a really simpler question. Is the worry worth more than the peace of mind? And I think like that is what the actual question is, right? For me, it's not. I don't care. Not right now. After this conversation, I am feeling a little bit like, should I go? Should I visit? We do in LA, there is an actual like, it's like on Western and Santa Monica. It's a bright yellow banner. You can't miss it. It's got like all the doomsday stuff. And I think they boast like, get your earthquake kits here.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess I'm like, I want to ask this person, be like, what is worse? You having to like deal with this brain space it's taking up, or just doing it, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I forget, like, was part of the what like percentage of the question was about money? You know,
he said I'm doing okay financially.
Yeah. So
right.
I'm feeling like, okay, just how much is an earthquake? Like I'm assuming a standard one is under $100.
I don't think so. I feel like we're
Really?
over 100. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I guess it just depends on
now that's
what's in it.
annoying. Okay,
Yeah.
well I'm back on the other side. That's
Yeah.
annoying to me.
So $100 was your peace of mind line.
I'm like $35 is my peace of mind line. But I have first aid kits.
Okay.
So that kind of like helps me. Also, barter system. I think that's really good.
But what are you bartering? Barter isn't just borrowing.
Some food.
Okay. So you have food.
Yeah, I'll have, you know, sometimes Gotta keep that fridge stocked. But I've got well, no, I have a lot of perishables.
You were talking about beans, my friend. You literally said you just needed water and beans. I heard you.
Yeah. Yeah, but like I want more.
Sure.
You know, like Cheez-Its or like, you know.
I feel like you also need some cans of tuna or meat of choice because that's a really quick protein.
Yeah.
And a can opener.
Canned tuna.
Okay. What's your meat of choice?
In a can? Absolutely nothing.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you are
nothing.
A beans guy.
I'm like I'll be like veggie. I'll be a veggie girl for a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. Wow. This has honestly riddled me with anxiety thinking forward.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But listen, all you have to do is listen to the second half of this episode when I bring on my CERT instructor.
Yeah.
Which is who we're talking to next.
Okay.
And when he tells you everything you need to know.
I will listen. I will hang on to every word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also in the show notes, we'll do a lot of linking and really just put like that earthquake kit on there.
Honestly,
so if
yeah.
Panicking, I'll be like, look, it's right there. That's.
You know, I find myself very curious about the LA community, and are we going to be a community that like kisses and like sends people away, or the type of people to like let people come in and help each other out? Yeah. Very curious about that.
I agree. I'm actually very curious about that too. We'll see. I mean, actually, that's a great question for my instructor to grill him about.
Yeah.
There's definitely some like hard advice in there, but overall, those guys are ready to hand their last water bottle to someone else. They're just so impressive. But yeah, I don't know. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Yeah. Ooh.
Hello, dwellers. I was going to call you renters and homeowners, but dwellers just sounds better. Did you find yourself nodding along with Ryan for that advice? Or did you have some other ideas? You know what's so ironic is we actually had a tiny little earthquake here in this studio when I was recording with Ryan. It was literally right after we cut the camera. The place shook and we just stared at each other. Creepy. We who live in California, we've all known some disasters here. Some were before my time, like the 1994 Northridge earthquake that caused $40 billion in damage and injured over 9,000 people, to the crazy weeks of wildfires recently here in 2025, yielding two of the most destructive fires in California history. Next up, we're going to talk about that confession and explore the friendly advice from Ryan Barton with our expert. While I've got him, I have a few other questions too. Today, we're talking with LAFD CERT instructor and passionate first responder, Chin Thammasaengsri. An LA native, in addition to being my personal CERT instructor, Chin has worked for CBS Television Network for 33 years and has been a member of the prestigious LA Community Emergency Response Team for over 11 years. Welcome, Chin.
Hello. Good morning.
Hello. Okay, you heard our confessor. He said he was ready to lay down and die instead of exploring his fear of how to prep for an earthquake. Honestly, this feels so relatable. Being overwhelmed by the idea of preparedness makes people shut down.
People think it's such a it sounds like a large subject, but it really isn't.
How do we think about something as scary as preparedness, Chin? Can we prepare for preparedness in our mind?
We can. And you know what? Ryan said something that was very powerful to me at the very end. He says, it's about peace of mind. That's exactly what it is. Now, I'm going to throw a little joke in here and say, disaster preparedness can be a lot like bad credit. It's never too late to change it up. And there are things you can do. There's a great little one sheet that you can get from the American Red Cross. It's called 21 Weeks to Preparedness. And it tells you week by week some things you should get. Like week 1 might be get some cans of tuna. And I'm a tuna man. I got 1 million cans back here. But get some cans of tuna. Yeah. Get some soap. Put a few dollars away for your bag. Remember to put in your important papers like your insurance. And every week it tells you to do a little something different. If you do that, you're putting it together piecemeal and it'll just be much easier for you. And one more thing I want to tell everybody about too is I know that Ryan mentioned the money factor. You guys were kind of bouncing back and forth. Well, how much is it? Is it $35? Is it $100? If you go to places like the Dollar Tree, Walmart, or things like that and get some of this stuff, between you and me, you can save money. You can save a lot of money.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. I feel like, yeah, we were sort of tongue in cheek laughing about it, but I think you're right. I think there's certainly a scale of money that you can spend on preparedness. Chin, I want to think through some of the reasons why we don't prep. Maybe we don't know where to start, right? Or maybe you're broke and you think it's going to cost a fortune, like we just said. And some of us, like Ryan mentioned, feel like you're never going to use it. It's never going to matter. So why spend your hard-earned pennies on a kit that you may never use?
Well, first off, I want to say that every point you just put out is something that we're all thinking about. We're thinking about the money. We're thinking about all of these different things. But let me go with the last point, because you mentioned it in your last segment, saying that the last major earthquake, which was 1994's Northridge earthquake, you weren't even here for. There's a whole generation or even a little bit more who's never experienced an earthquake. But keep in mind, the difference between us and, let's say, Florida or parts of Ohio is that every year they get some kind of environmental event, whether it's a hurricane or a tornado. They know it's coming.
Yep.
With us, it's going to be a surprise.
Yeah.
And you started at the very top of the session by saying that people have said we're long overdue. We are way long overdue. So again, for your peace of mind and for your preparation, just go on and do it. This is your insurance, preparation.
And I feel like the first segment that you just caught with Ryan, we recorded that before the fires. So obviously we would have touched on some of the fires in these conversations. And obviously some parts of preparedness are duplicate, right? Like your kit for earthquakes is really darn similar to your kit for a wildfire and leaving your house in a hurry, because again, you don't necessarily know when it's coming. So there are other things that your kit can really keep you safe from.
Here's the thing. A lot of people, when we're talking about disaster preparation, say, oh man, he's talking about that earthquake again. And, there hasn't been an earthquake in 30 years. And it's just like he keeps talking about it. Here's the trick. If you prepare for an earthquake, you are prepared for nearly everything else that can hit you. Could be a fire. If you have that go bag or that kit going, you can run by the door and run out the door and get in your car and go. Let me go back into the very beginnings of COVID, which is still fresh in our minds. And every generation so far has been here for that one. When people started talking about wearing N95 masks, who had those N95 masks in their little bags?
Me.
And some of us even supplied our friends and loved ones with them. I supplied my better half with them. She's a nurse out of UCLA, and so remember they were struggling those early days. I supplied them. So this is the value of preparation. If you prepare for an earthquake, you're prepared for everything else.
I think sometimes we all just assume that somebody else is going to swoop in and save our biscuit if we get in trouble, and frankly, it's not always true. I think it takes a long time for help to arrive sometimes, and you just don't want to be stuck without some of the stuff you need while you wait.
Well, Lori, you don't want to be stuck. And here's what we have to understand. And when I'm out in the community, even in my own neighborhood, people are saying, well, God darn it, I'm paying my taxes. And if something happens, I'm waiting for them to come and get me. And part of that is true. We do pay a lot of taxes here in the United States for all kinds of stuff. But here's the reality. The Pacific Palisades fire, the 1994 earthquake, the hurricanes in Florida. Those are such large events that it overwhelms any service right away. It's just a reality. It's going to take them up to 72 hours, if not longer, to get going. It is incumbent on us to be able to take care of ourselves, our families, and our immediate community for hours to days to weeks. And that's just a reality.
For this episode, I want to stay laser focused on our caller and his question. Because in the landscape of preparedness, Chin, I could talk to you forever about this stuff. Like, we could just get cooking and it'll be like 8 hours later. So,
of course,
our caller is completely unprepared for disaster, earthquake style. Let's set the scene, all right? Let's say you are our caller, or even Ryan, our friend of the show. You're sound asleep in bed. It's 3 o'clock in the morning, and all of a sudden, bang, jolt. Right? The house, the bed moves. All around you, there is a sudden shaking and it feels crazy. There's a rumble, you snap awake, you are hanging on to your bed for dear life, and you realize this could be the big one. Chin, I want you to describe for me what could be happening all around you in your room if this is a 7.0.
What could be happening at that point? You're laying in bed and it starts shaking. Everything around you is going to start coming down. If you've got those little curio cabinets, mirrors on the wall, mirrors on the ceiling, but I don't think anybody's done that since 1972. I hope they haven't. But what you never know in LA for sure. But what you want to do is in that room, you want to stay right in that bed. And you know how people said, I'm just going to cover my head up and just hide? Cover your head up and hide. Put your pillow on top of you, because everything's going to be falling. Your doors and windows will probably warp, meaning that if you try to get out of a window, it's not going to go up. Or if you pull a door open, it's going to come out wacky. Okay. So you've got that situation. So all around you, you've got debris on the floor. You've got things that are going to turn your feet into Swiss cheese and different things like that. And that's all going to happen within 15 seconds? We always think it's a minute, but it can be sometimes as short as 15 seconds.
What does it sound like? What does it smell like? In that moment, what are we experiencing?
You know what? It sounds like a train. You hear it sounds like it's coming out of the distance and it's coming towards you. Those are the waves that are coming right towards you, and then it just starts to shake. And you might start hearing, if you're in an older house like I am at this very moment, you might start hearing the plaster start to powder as stuff starts to crack and start to move. And you might see that type of thing going on all around you. So it shakes. It could warp your house. You can see puffs of smoke and dust, etc.
That sounds really scary.
It is.
In that first moment after the earthquake, what do we do?
Here's what you don't do. Jump up out of bed and run out of the room. Don't do that. Because remember, I just told you there's going to be a lot of debris on the floor, right? Some of that stuff can be glass. It can be jagged pieces of concrete or whatever it is. It'll tear your feet up. And those are the biggest injuries that you see in earthquakes. It's because people have gotten up and they're running out of the room. Now, here's what you do. Wait until the room calms down. If you're really good, you got a bag under your bed. A little bag which may have some shoes in it, and for those who sleep au naturel, and we know people like that.
Yep.
Have some clothes in there, so you can put some clothes on. Yeah. And then if you in that bag which is under your bed, have some gear in there like a flashlight, maybe even a small helmet. Like I said, clothes that cover your whole body and shoes. Then you kind of get up, survey your room. If you've got to get out of that room, like I said, if the door is warped, make sure in that bag you have a pry bar or something like that. Once you get out, first thing, if you have extended family in there, like your kids, your husband's in another room, why would he be in another room? I have no idea. But hey, I'm not there. Check on them.
Yours.
See how your immediate family is doing.
So, Chin, I have to stop you here. Are you saying,
Go.
If you're a parent during that earthquake, You are not getting out of your bed and going to your kids' room.
I am exactly saying that. Take a minute to survey your environment and make sure that you're properly dressed right down to your feet, because running to your kids at that moment, if you have feet that are cut up like Swiss cheese, you're going to be a problem to yourself and your family later on. Take a moment, take a breath. I know that we're scared, but take that breath.
Wow. Okay. And so obviously, if we're parents, we need to have a conversation with our kids about what they should be doing in that moment if their parents are not running into the room to be with them.
Make sure everybody knows the strategy. And that's how you keep down that type of thing from happening, where everybody feels like, I've got to get to the kids. The kids already know what to do. So the kids, your husband, etc.
It sounds like the immediacy was stay in bed and be safe. And then once everything has stopped moving, we've got our sweatpants and our sweatshirt on. We've got those slip-on shoes on. And then I think we're looking around at this point, right? And we're trying to figure out what's the next step. Are we checking to see if anything is on fire or if there's any water leaking anywhere? Like, what's our next step, Chin?
Once you're done with with yourself, your immediate family, walk around the house. Definitely see, are there any leaks? You're going to be smelling for gas, the world famous natural gas. Smell for that. Look for water. Go outside your house. Has your house slid off its foundation? Do a complete size up of your environment. And when I say this, when I say go outside, I'm not telling you yet to go meet up with your CERT team or even your neighbors. Walk around your own house.
Yep.
Survey everything and get everything taken care of. Like, if you have to turn off the gas, turn off the gas. If you have to turn off the water, turn off the water, turn off the electricity, etc. Get it done in your world first before we talk about anything else.
And this is important. So there are plenty of places in our home that have water, right? And most of them have an individual shutoff. So something broke in the bathroom. Traditionally, you can look behind the toilet. There's a shutoff valve under the sink. If you have something that's leaking in one location, shut it off in that one location and keep looking, right?
Shut it off. And I say do the same with your gas as well. If you're able to turn off gas behind the stove, behind the water heater, behind a furnace or whatever, you can do that as well. So make sure you do that survey, yes, and turn off all of those resources that can actually turn around and damage your house. Running water, of course, it can damage your house. Gas, of course, can blow up, etc., etc.
I think for a lot of us in Los Angeles, our homes have been updated with an earthquake shutoff valve for the gas. So, my gardener bumped it one time and it shut off the gas, and I didn't figure it out until I couldn't understand why the shower wouldn't heat up. And then I was like, oh yeah, the tree trimming. Let me go check that out. So knowing where your gas valve is on your house and being able to read it is such an important thing for people. I feel like, okay, if you live in an apartment, maybe this is not relevant for you necessarily. But if you live in a home, this is something everybody in California should know how to do. And I feel like this stuff can sound really scary, but honestly, it's just a couple of pieces of information that you can look it up on YouTube and just watch somebody go through all of this. It's not that hard. And you're going to feel so much better with that tiny little nugget filed away in your brain.
And again, we talked about it at the top of this interview. Do everything bit by bit.
Yeah.
Whatever you do today, if you do a couple of things today, don't care what they are, but if you do something today to prepare yourself, you're light years better than you were, let's say, 3 hours ago.
So we're standing in the front yard, Chin. We're looking at the damage and possibly dealing with serious chaos. In this moment, in hindsight, what do we wish we had prepped? Let's start at the beginning. Something is happening that causes an interruption in our normal life, right? Whether it's an earthquake or fire, your life has changed in a moment. So what are we preparing?
Well, let's take fire kind of out of the equation, because what we just saw at the Pacific Palisades area, it really was an issue, and I talk about this all the time. When it comes to a fire or something that's moving like that, Your best job is to get out of there.
Yeah.
Be prepared, have your gear bags or have your go bags, throw them in the car, get the heck out of there.
Yep.
Not a lot you can do. But let's talk about an earthquake.
Yep.
One of the biggest goals in preparation is, and this might surprise you, is to be able to stay in your own neighborhood and be able to at least shelter in place. Maybe not necessarily in your house, which may have like gone like kerplunk, but maybe you can be in your neighborhood. Can I bring up Ryan again?
Yes.
He made a wonderful point. He may have said it in jest, but he was so right. He was talking about heading over to his neighbors and he's got great vibes and all that kind of stuff. That's one thing preparation teaches us to do too. You guys talked about the fact that, oh, I can't have 21 gallons of water in here and I can't have all this extra food. If you extend your planning to include your neighbors, you guys can spread that out. Lori, maybe you've got really great food in your cabinet. I'm over here with tuna fish. I'll trade you some tuna fish for whatever you've got that you can spare. Exactly. Or maybe I'll just show up at your door and say, I got 8 rolls of toilet paper. What are you going to give me?
I like
Toilet paper makes you a kingmaker. But that's why we include our neighbors in this.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Let's assume that we are going to stay in place, that it's safe enough to be on our property. We're going to stay there. Let's talk about food because, Chin, I know myself and a lot of my friends, I tend to eat healthy food and healthier. And I find myself consuming fresh food a lot. And I bring home a pile of veggies and, things that I need to cook and prepare. And a lot of them live in the fridge. And I think a lot of people who live in cities are potentially like this or have meal service delivered, eat takeout. So I feel like many of us are not necessarily building that pantry up with things that make sense for an earthquake.
One of the things we can do for ourselves is maybe know somebody in the neighborhood or have one of these ourselves, a generator. Like you said, you have a lot of veggies in there and stuff that needs to be kept refrigerated. Have a generator or something where you can plug it up. The best thing I could say is that, again, work with your neighbors. Who's got the generator and a refrigerator? Because in addition to that food that you're talking about, you might have to put my diabetes medicine in there, or you might have to put something in there that needs to be kept cold. Arrange to have something where you can power at least one refrigerator. As far as other foods go, I'm hoping that a lot of people still keep canned foods in their kitchens, like the tuna fish we talked about, soups, different things like that. If we do that, and let's find out from our neighbors what they've done, we can pull that together. And people who want to eat that can eat that. Other people can stay with their prescribed diets. And one thing you brought up, if you have a particular diet, you're vegan, vegetarian, look at our observant Jewish community, which has really strict diet guidelines.
Yep.
Make sure you kind of stock up on that and plan for how you're going to store it and keep it fresh.
Yeah, I have a girlfriend who has celiac disease and can't consume gluten. And so we went through this exercise a couple of years ago talking about what kind of food can you put in your preparedness kit. And it's hard. And, some of it was really specialized. And she really did some research on gluten-free, long shelf life, gluten-free items because, we know this from the wildfires. When you've lost everything, someone hands you a bag. I actually did some prepping and packing of these bags through the wildfires. And someone gives you a bag with stuff in it, some clothes, some food. And most of the time, they're not asking you what your dietary restrictions are, unless you have like massive allergies. You're just getting what they give you. And so if you have sensitivities or intolerances, you got to take care of yourself.
Here's the thing, Lori. Think about these things before the disaster happens. When the disaster happens, it is too late.
Yeah. Friend of the show, Ryan Barton, said he's probably got a can of beans, no tinned meat, but maybe some Cheez-Its, and he's ready to barter. Man, I laughed so hard at this because he was like, I'm going to barter. And then when I asked him what he had to barter, he was like, crap, I don't have anything. I want to barter.
Well, guess what? Ryan is on the right track, and it was really funny when I was watching that whole segment. I said, "Oh, he's going down the right road. Just go a little farther." During that time, trade and barter is going to become a stylish thing.
If you only had $50, what would you buy for food prep? You, Chin, what would you put in your food prep right now?
Lots of canned foods. I would definitely do all of that tuna, maybe some beans like Ryan would, stuff that's going to last me for a while. Water, 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 water. And in fact, Lori, I'm going to tell you, above food, whenever you see those lists, you notice that water's on top and food is kind of on the bottom.
Yeah.
That's not a misprint. You need water. You need fresh water, and water just for drinking.
I want to come back to what Ryan said. If you have a small apartment, where do you keep it?
Well, it's the general rule is that for every day of the disaster, when nobody's available, no fire or anything like that, when they're out in the field delayed getting back to us, for your survival, you want, take this down, 1 gallon of water per day per person in your home. So if there's 3 of you in the house, you, your child, your husband, that's 3 gallons of water each day that you want to have. If you have a pet, which one of your videos talked about pets, we were talking about that earlier.
Yep.
You treat the pet as a person.
Okay.
And they get 1 gallon of water.
Okay.
So that question always comes up about where do I keep it all? First of all, I just want to say to everybody who's sweating that point, do what you can. If you can keep like 7 packs of Dasani water or whatever it is, and that's all you can hold, do it. It's going to get you going. If you can, stick some of that stuff in your car. We spend a lot of time in our cars. And if you can put that in a nice, safe place, that's another place you can stick it. Not a lot, but just enough. But otherwise, again, this is where CERT kicks in with the team portion. Get with your neighbors. See, hey, can we stack some water in here for use for these people in the community? That kicks in. It's just kind of a reality.
I got to say it because it feels a little optimistic. And I know that your background in CERT makes you community driven and neighborhood focused. And you're a person who is looking to help someone else at all times. I am hearing in my head this little voice that's telling me that most people who talk about preparedness aren't sharing a thing. They are hiding things. They're not talking to their neighbors. Like the prepper community is probably rolling their eyes right now because this is all about your own bunker and your own shit that you saved. And it's every man for himself. And I think about this a lot with LA. I know we saw a massive outpouring of support for the 2 fires, well, there were many fires, but these 2 massive fires that just raged through the Altadena community and the Palisades, and people all over Los Angeles came out and supported. However, my heart says in an earthquake that is a little more everywhere in the city and everyone needs help, I am wondering if that community spirit sticks around or if people start going door to door and stealing your shit.
You know what? I'm going to put it to you both ways. In communities that have done what we've been talking about and prepared for themselves and worked with their neighbors, those communities will thrive a lot better. And you see that they will all get around each other. And by the way, if you create this plan with your community, your neighbors are going to protect all your stuff. If you live 2 doors from me and you've got that generator that's powering that refrigerator that I've got my medicine or food or whatever it is in, if somebody comes down the street and says, hey, I'm taking your stuff, you're going to deal with like about 10 different people. from that neighborhood. And guess what? Let me tell you something about those kind of people who walk through a neighborhood and want to take stuff.
Yeah.
If you come into a community that's cohesive like that and has made a plan, you're going up against 10 people. You have to ask yourself if you want to deal with that. It's kind of like Clint Eastwood saying, well, do you feel lucky today, punk? And usually those people don't. Those people won't. So the benefit is it keeps people from outside who are saying, well, I'm going to go raid them. They're prepared. That alone is one reason why you want to prepare, and you want to connect with your community. So for people who are saying, nah, you're optimistic, I'm just going to prepare for myself. Hey, I am mad at you. Do what you want to do, but you're going to suffer for it.
All right. I like it. I want to hear your thought process on this. How do you make the decision if it's not actually safe to stay in your home or your neighborhood? Now, obviously, we talked about wildfires, so not talking about that here. But in terms of an earthquake, my scenarios that run through my head are maybe something has caught on fire from a gas leak, or your neighborhood is rubble or in whatever condition it's in. Like, what is the line for you, Chin, where you say, okay, I don't think it's safe to stay here, and I'm going to make the choice if you're lucky enough that your car hasn't been smushed, or even if the streets make sense to drive on. But like, when do you decide in your head that you're walking out of your neighborhood with your go bag?
You put the answer right out there. If you are in a neighborhood that is just so devastated, where everything's reduced to rubble, no reason for you to be there, because as we saw in the Palisades, you had a lot of contaminants that were thrown up into the air. The soil was contaminated. Even if you had water, even if you had access to water, it wasn't even safe to use it. You had no way to boil it. And if you did boil it, it was still contaminated.
Yeah.
When you get kind of to that point, it's kind of like you look at your neighbors, you look at your friends and family, and say, let's caravan out of here. Use those powers of observation and figure out which way you want to go.
Okay. And so if we're walking out of our neighborhood, that means that bag and that prep is a little bit different because it needs to go with you, right? So what's in this bag, Chin?
In your bag, and it may be 2 bags. So hopefully you got kids and a husband, they can throw one over their shoulder. You want to have definitely a bag with all of your essentials, starting with your personal papers, your passports, your insurance policies, maybe even your medicines, the medicines you need, different things like that. That's one bag. What you might want to have, and you can even do it where each member has like a backpack of their own, of the food you need, some water. Again, you can move your medicines over to that too, whatever thrills you. For the kids, have games for them, because if you stop someplace or if you end up in a communal shelter or something like that, the kids have to have something to do, and they have to have something to keep their minds off of things. Think of things for yourself that you can use to keep your mind off of things. For your pets, definitely for them. What's their favorite food if you can carry it with you? Their little treats, their medicines, most definitely. Everything that goes with that particular pet. Think about what you need and think about what you can carry. I'm being specifically vague because the bag each of us keeps will be probably different for each person, but the basics always stay the same. Take a whistle and a flashlight in one of your bags, because a whistle can be good for drawing attention in case you get injured or something like that. And a flashlight, of course, if you're out and about at night, at least you have something to see with.
I didn't remember the whistle one. That's really good. One of the things that I truly enjoyed about Ryan's conversation was when I asked him what an earthquake kit should be, he sort of put his hands up and showed me an 8x11 or 8x12 square. And it was yellow in his head. And he was like, it's a little box. And there are pre-made survival kits. And
There are.
it's easy to think if I buy this survival kit, I'm going to be just fine and I don't need anything else.
Those pre-made kits are the basics. If you look in them, you see all the same thing: a flashlight, a small med kit, some gloves, some goggles, different things like that. You have to add something to personalize it for yourself. Like I said a little bit earlier in our last conversation, you might want to actually add some clothes to that. All those old clothes that are stacked in my corner over here that have the neck all, because my beard messes them up, or shirts that are just not quite wearable to work anymore.
Yep.
Stick that to the side.
Yeah.
Stick some of that stuff to the side and stick it in your bag. We get things all the time, like flashlights as gifts and everything. Stick that in your bag.
Yep.
And for everything else, go to the Dollar Tree.
Okay.
It may not be the greatest stuff, but it is functional stuff. Find ways to keep your costs down.
I want to go back to the front yard. We're staring at our place. It's a mess. What is the worst thing you could do in this moment?
Yeah, well, are we assuming that the house is just like completely trashed out and everything like that, and you're looking at it and it's kind of standing like this and everything?
Yep.
Okay, the worst thing you could do is try to go back in that house.
Okay.
Worst thing. And people will sometimes try to do that. They will try to go, well, the house is all slid off the foundation and it's kind of like this. Don't go back in. Because the minute you go back in, there will be some kind of instability that causes the house to collapse. Instability like an aftershock or different things like that. If you've gotten out of that house, stay out of that house. If you can't look at it and say, you know what, I think we can do this. If it's looking anything else, stay out of that house. And by the way, if you live in a house on those big hills, on those hills like Mount Washington, and it's like, definitely don't go back in that house. You might be taking a sleigh ride down that hill.
The stilts houses, they terrify me. I could never.
They scare me. They scare the crap out of me.
I could never sleep. Chin, what is something that you have learned that would take the rest of us 5 years to know?
The power of community. With all the jokes aside, when I get into a community that's so open, even before I got there, to like interfacing with each other and neighbors who know neighbors, I just say these people know something every other neighborhood in LA needs to learn. And probably if we had brought them into that neighborhood and says, hey, this is what it looks like, they wouldn't accept it. But I'm going to tell you, the power of community is what's going to bring us through any and all disasters we go through. I don't care if it's COVID. I don't care if it's a fire. I don't care if it's an earthquake. It's the power of community for us to be good to each other. And again, like I said earlier, we need to practice that long before that earthquake happens, because you banging on my door at like 5 a.m. after the earthquake, I can't help it. I might even say, get off my porch. But the power of community, that is the one thing that will make this work.
Jen, who is CERT training for?
Everybody. The CERT training was designed by the Los Angeles City Fire Department back in 1986. And the fire department knew that they were going to have difficulties getting to us in a major disaster like an earthquake. So they want to have a truly trained cadre of citizens and neighbors who are able to go out and door knock and say, are you okay? Oh, you've cut yourself. Let me splint that, or let me set that broken arm, or let me size up your house, or even I might have to come in and drag you out. That's what it's for, but it's for the average person. And in fact, everybody who's involved, including this guy right here, I'm on nobody's payroll. I took the class 11 years ago, just like you did, Lori, at some point. And I was like, wow, okay, this is kind of cool. And I've been doing it ever since. It's for average people like you and me.
Ryan says, crawl to a neighbor's house and borrow some resources. Chin says, get to know your neighbors and build a community. To our confessor, I say, tonight's lazy person challenge is put some slip-on shoes under your side of the bed, maybe a sweatshirt and some sweatpants, and a flashlight for your nightstand. And friend, I hope you never need it.
And we all pray for that. And you know what? Ryan and I, we teamed up on that one. He had the idea of going to the neighbor's house and trying to trade and barter. And the only thing I would add to his idea there is make sure you know that neighbor first. Because again, at 3 o'clock in the morning when Ryan shows up at their door, you want to make sure they know who he is. And not greet him with like a shotgun or anything like that. I like Ryan. I don't want him to go down like that.
Chin, here at True Home Confessions, our number one question is friendly advice good advice? Did Ryan Barton get it right?
Ryan Barton, in my opinion, he got it right. He just needs a little bit more preparation, a little bit more outreach to his community, and I think he's got it. I really do. And that's why I enjoyed watching you guys talk.
My friends who are listening, don't wait for necessity to create community. Like Chin says, meet your neighbors. If you're a naturally private person or an introvert, you might need to think about this more than other people. Hey, consider taking a CERT class. I am actually very grateful to have done this and for all of the knowledge that I got out of this experience. I want to thank you all for listening, for all the ways that you can find Ryan Barton and Chin Thammasaengsri, as well as so much more information. Hit the show notes. This may be our most important episode ever, so share it with a friend. You may save a life. Thanks for spending time with us, and hit subscribe, and let's do it again. Friends, I have a confession. We own a beautiful 1927 Spanish-style home. And when it rained, I kid you not, I used to have to run around the house and put towels under the windowsills to collect all the water that poured in. It was bananas. I waited for years to replace the old wood windows because I was afraid the new ones wouldn't match the authentic style of my home. When I couldn't put it off any longer, I worked with Renewal by Andersen, and they put all my nitpicky fears at ease. When I work with a brand, I'm big on real relationships. You're only going to hear from companies that I have vetted myself. And I can tell you the people at Renewal by Andersen are the best. I'm not just saying that because I'm a brand ambassador. I truly love this brand. If you need new windows and doors, here's a little offer for you. Buy one window or door and get one 40% off, plus an additional $200 off your entire purchase when you buy 4 or more. Special financing is available. Are you in? Give Renewal by Andersen a call at 844-290-2458. Back to the show.